we're going to be looking at pregnancy, the perinatal stage. We're going to be talking to Dr. Kelvin Owusu, who's the Medical Director of Optima Care Diagnostics. And throughout our conversation, if you have any questions for him, let us know. The hashtag is Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550585832. If you're outside Ghana, just use the country code +233, and we will receive your messages. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
Very well, very well.
Are you ready for election season and all the craziness?
It's crazy out there, but yeah, well, it's a constitutional duty, so we have to perform it.
We need to make sure we're safe while we do it.
Very important, because there's still corona out there. Yeah. It's very, very important.
Definitely. Now, pregnancy, perinatal stage, why is it important?
Well, it's very important because a lot of things can go. In fact, a lot of things do go wrong
during that time.
Yes, during that time. And if we know a lot more about it, we can help reduce the incidence of perinatal mortality in the babies and maternal mortality as well, because the two sort of overlap at this particular stage that we are talking about.
Okay, so what's the time frame that we're looking at?
It's interesting. So, peri means around. So, perinatal technically means around labor or around birth. But the thing about pregnancy is that we really don't know. If you pick an individual woman, we can't tell when her labor will start. I mean, we do know that pregnancy is about 40 weeks. Yeah. When you complete 38 weeks, we say you can have you can deliver at any point from there, and you have a bouncy baby, a baby boy, a baby girl, and a mother should be fine, baby should be fine. But some babies tend to be born earlier, and so the perinatal period is quite prolonged, it's quite long. So it starts from the period of viability. Okay. And what period of viability means that the point from which, if you deliver that baby, he or she can survive on his or her own. Okay. And in Ghana, our period of viability is 28 completed weeks. Okay. So anytime from 7 months going, it's considered perinatal, because labor can occur at any point at that time. Okay. So that's really it. And it ends 1 week after the baby is born. So perinatal is from 28 completed weeks all the way to 1 week post labor or post birth, so postnatal.
Why is this period so crucial to the survival of the baby and the mother?
Well, because like I said, a lot of things can go wrong. If the mother's health is not good, if the mother has poorly controlled diabetes or poorly controlled hypertension and blood pressure, all these can affect the baby. Can affect the baby because both of these conditions affect the placenta. So when the placenta is not able to support the baby, now to the layman, the placenta basically is the baby's support system. That's how the baby gets food. Yeah. That's how the baby gets nutrients. That's how the baby gets everything the baby needs. So the placenta is not able to provide all of these things. There's a problem. And the placenta is the link between the baby and the mother. And so if any problem the mother has will be translated to the baby through the placenta. And so poorly controlled diabetes or hypertension can affect the placenta's circulation, which then can affect the baby, which could mean that the body, sometimes, if it's severe enough, the body will find ways of protecting the baby by causing an early labor. So you realize that a lot of the children that are born premature is probably because the mother had a health condition, a health challenge, and so the baby had to be born earlier. And we know from our discussion last week that prematurity or preterm is really a big problem. In fact, one of the major causes of death in this perinatal period is prematurity. And so anything that causes preterm labor is a problem that we need to deal with. And so the perinatal period is a critical period where the mother's health needs to be taken into consideration. You see, and let me just backtrack a bit. Now, we said the period of viability is from 28 weeks, which technically means that anything that happens before 28 weeks is not important, in quotes. I'm putting it in quotes because I'll come back to it. Because if a child is born before 28 weeks, and I'm talking about in terms of Ghana, a child is born before 28 weeks, there's a high 98% chance that baby will not survive. Okay. And so really, it's when you cross that period of viability, then as medics, we need to do everything possible to make sure that baby,
the child will survive.
Exactly. And so if a termination of pregnancy or a preterm labor that happens after the period of viability, it's a big deal to us, because it means that something is not being done right, or something is not being put in the right condition, and that's why that labor has occurred.
Because you've lost the full full-blown human being.
Exactly. And so it could be from the mother's side or from the baby side. I've already addressed the mother's side. There are other things, and we don't have much time. On the baby side, there could be factors that could trigger an early labor.
Okay.
You know, some chromosomal issues, or the babies may also have a health challenge, and sometimes they might, if they have issues with their heart, for instance, it might actually precipitate labor. And this labor could be artificial because the health personnel may have to induce the labor.
Okay.
You know, if the baby's heart is failing and we can't intervene from the outside, we have to deliver that baby so that we can intervene. You know, so there are a lot of things that we could precipitate or could result in a preterm labor, both on the baby side and the mother's side. Now, if the child is born preterm, obviously there are challenges. Breathing, because the lungs are not fully developed. Temperature control, because the skin is not fully developed. Even how they will tolerate food, because again the intestines in the stomach is not fully developed. So all of these are challenges, and that's why we lose a lot of our preterm babies. And so as much as possible, we need to do a lot of things in the perinatal period to prevent negative outcome.
Okay. What should those things be?
So I think we've also talked about antenatal care.
Yes.
You cannot have antenatal care is very, very important. So antenatal care encompasses the entire period of pregnancy, whereas perinatal is only from the point of viability.
Yeah.
Antenatal is once you are pregnant, you start antenatal care, and what you do during antenatal period all helps or accounts to what kind of child you're going to give birth to and what kind of mother you're going to end up being. In the sense that if you don't attend antenatal care, you are not getting education on what foods to eat, what things to avoid, because there are even some medications that you're not supposed to take when you're pregnant, because it has effect on the children. For instance, alcohol. For the minute you are pregnant, you should never take alcohol. And the thing about alcohol is that it's not about how much you take, whether it's a lot or a small. It doesn't matter. There's no fixed amount of alcohol that results in fetal alcohol syndrome. Now, fetal alcohol syndrome is there are features that you can actually see, and it tells you that this child was exposed to alcohol in utero. You know, and there's no minimum cutoff, so you can't say that I'm only going to have a glass. For you, it could be that one glass which will cause your kid to get fetal alcohol syndrome. And it's not just about the facial features, because those are the most obvious things.
Some psychological issues
exactly,
as well.
Exactly. Mental issues and even developmental issues as well. So it's very, very important. Smoking. You cannot smoke if you are pregnant. You cannot use any recreational drugs when you are pregnant. And all of these are things that you know because you are attending antenatal. You know, there are foods you should be eating. You know, blood pressure checks are part of antenatal. And you see, you may not be hypertensive before you are pregnant. You are not hypertensive, you are not diabetic, but pregnancy can tip you into hypertension. It can tip you into diabetes. And so it's not, you cannot say that I'm not hypertensive, so I won't check my BP. You need to check it as often as possible, because you can't tell which point exactly when the hypertension will start. And at whichever point it starts, it could cause damage to the placenta, which could then affect the baby. You see, so antenatal care is very important. We cannot overemphasize the need to attend antenatal. And once you attend antenatal, we can also check the baby's development. Is the baby gaining adequate weight at the right time, or is the baby gaining too much weight? Because that also has implications. If your child is too big and too big for you, emphasis on you, because the mother is the one going to push the baby out. And so it could be that it's possible that a child may be within the normal range of weight, but because the mother is small, she will not be able to push this baby out. And so it takes a doctor to do that assessment and decide that it will be better for you to have a cesarean section. If you attempt to push this baby out, we are going to have a negative outcome, you see. It could also be that the child is big, but then the mother is also quite
so she can handle
it. You know, but you cannot just sit down and decide that I'm going to push my baby. I mean, I have had a situation in personal experience where a woman who has had a previous cesarean section, 2 previous cesarean sections, decided that because the doctor has recommended that she does a 3rd cesarean section, she doesn't want to do that. She wants to go and push, because if she doesn't push, she's not a woman. Now, how
dangerous is it to even attempt to push after you've gone through? That is deadly.
In fact, that is catastrophic. And that's actually what happened. So she actually went to a maternity home to go and push.
Wow.
So even though you
advised her not to do it.
Yes, she actually stayed at home until she got into labor, and then went to a maternity home to go and deliver. And the uterus actually gave way. So there was uterine rupture, which is a typical consequence of multiple cesarean sections. That's why if you have had more than one cesarean section, you are not allowed to push again. You see, but if you are not attending antenatal, you may not get this information, and so you might end up getting a negative outcome. So you go into the labor ward to try and push because the scar is weak, it's going to tear through, and you will die because the uterus is rich with blood vessels. So you could actually get a negative outcome. Or no, in fact, you most likely get a negative outcome. Thankfully for her, she was rushed to the hospital early enough for intervention, but of course she lost her womb because you couldn't save that womb. You had to take out the womb. Thankfully the baby survived, the mother survived, but without a womb. And so it's important that you do some of these things so that you will get the outcome you are so desperate for, And then for the baby, once the baby is born, that first week is critical, and so in the labor ward, or once you deliver, especially for a first-time mother, they'll take you through how to even latch the baby onto the breast. You see, because it's not just...
Before we even get to the baby part, after you cross that 7-month mark, how often should you go see your doctor?
So if your pregnancy is uneventful, when we say uneventful, it means that everything is progressing as expected. Then all through your pregnancy, you are going to only see the doctor antenatal 4 times.
Okay.
I don't want to say doctor because antenatal is not about doctor. It's actually about a team. So there's a midwife, there's a doctor, a discussion over there. So you see the team only 4 times.
Okay.
If you have an uneventful pregnancy, only 4 times. Once in the first trimester, that's the first 13 weeks. Once again in the second trimester, and twice in the third trimester. Okay. Where they will assess the baby to see if everything is fine, and then if everything is progressing, you go on to have your labor and you're fine. But if there's an issue, if there's a medical condition with you or with your baby, then you will see that you might see the doctor more frequently. There are people who actually spend their entire pregnancy in hospital, because they have some situations. For instance, if you have a condition called cervical incompetence, you'll probably be in the hospital for 6 months, because once you cross the period of viability, we need to secure the cervix, so you cannot move.
How important is it for us women to not take these things for granted? Because your child could be scarred for life if they don't die.
Well, so culturally, I think one of the things that everybody expects of a woman is that you give birth, and so it's very painful if you don't achieve a successful pregnancy, or rather you don't achieve a successful delivery after a pregnancy. And so it's important that you culturally you go through the process and have your baby, and show the world that you also have a baby. That's one aspect. The second thing is that pregnancy it takes a toll on the body, and so to go through the pregnancy process and not have a successful delivery is mentally tasking. Because I've had women, and again personally, I've had women who go into depression after they've had a stillbirth or they had a perinatal mortality, and so it's a big deal, because there's a lot of hormones that are going up and down, trying to regulate your body to feed that, to keep that baby alive. And so when the baby is taken away from you completely, and in fact, what's it called? If you have a stillbirth, and this is sad but true, when you have a stillbirth, your body still considers that a delivery, and so you will still go through the process of producing milk.
Wow! So
imagine you've had a stillbirth, there's no baby, and your breast is engorged, and there's no baby to actually
give that milk to,
and so it's actually going to get painful, and sometimes get infected. So you are going to go through all of that, and there's still no baby to show for it. So it's very, 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 it's a difficult thing. And so once you are pregnant, you need to take all these things seriously so that you can get the outcome that you are looking for. It's very, very important. So, and I was mentioning that, so when the baby is even born.
Yes, and before that, I want to mention our social media handles so that if you guys have any questions for Dr. Kelvin, let us know. We're discussing the perinatal stage. It is really important that we all give birth to healthy babies, and the things we do while they are in our wombs and when they come out, they are crucial. If you have any questions for the doctor, let us know. The hashtag is Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550585832. Go ahead, Doc.
So, and thank you for that interaction. Let me just go back one step. So, it's not just about having a successful delivery of a healthy baby per se, but antenatal also tries to identify whether this baby that you are going to deliver is a baby that should be delivered.
And what do you mean by that? Because no mother would not want to deliver their baby.
Very true. You see, but some babies may not have formed properly, and so there's no point going through 40 weeks of pregnancy to deliver a baby who was not going to survive anyway. So if you go through the antenatal process properly and they do all the necessary scans, there's a particular scan that is taking about the 20th week of pregnancy, which we call Anomaly scan, where we actually check to make sure that this baby that you are going to give birth to has everything that will enable a human being to survive. That this baby does not have 3 eyes or four arms, or this baby is a normal baby that you are going to deliver. So when you go to the anomaly scan and everything is right, then all the necessary things are put in place. Or if they pick up something that suggests that this baby may have this particular health challenge, then could there be an intervention even before the birth of the baby, so that that baby is born without any problem, or immediately after the baby is born, the team is already on standby to pick up this baby and do the intervention that is necessary. You see, because we lose a lot of babies because nobody knows what was happening. So the child is born, and only for you to realize that, oh, this child was not ready. Even though it's 40 weeks, she may have benefited from another week or something. So there are things that can be done in all this regard if we actually know what we are expecting. And after the child is born, I keep getting interrupted here. I hope there's no interruption.
No more interruptions.
So after the child is born, the mother needs to be taught how to breastfeed. How to position the baby, how to put the baby, where to even put the baby, because the people assume that the child gets the milk from the nipple, but that's actually not entirely true. You see, the milk is coming from the areola, the space, the area around the nipple, because that's where all the ducts are converging. You see, so the child needs to be positioned in such a way that he or she can get enough of the areola and the nipple into the mouth, so that he can get the nutrition. Otherwise, the child will just suck in air. You might feel the tummy is big, so you think he or she is full. You put the child down, and she's up again in 30 minutes crying. You see, and that adjustment period is very, very difficult. I remember when I had my first child, I actually fell sick in I wasn't even part of the process, but I fell sick.
Why?
It's tasking, to wake up every 2 to 3 hours to breastfeed, etc. But once you go to antenatal period, you are told all these things, so it helps to know, to prepare for it. And once you are trained on what you expect, like jaundice, because jaundice in the first week is common, but not all. And when I say jaundice, I'm talking about yellowing of the eyes. It also affects the skin, but the eye is where you see it most commonly. And jaundice is a very, very important sign that you need to pick up early enough. Not all jaundice is necessarily a bad thing, but you cannot use your mind to tell which one is not. So you need to be able to identify that this baby has yellowing of the eye. Let me go and get a checkup so that I know what to do. And that's why the first week after delivery, every mother goes back to the hospital with the baby so that all these checks can be done. Awesome. Very, very important.
We have some questions for you. How can I keep my my blood pressure level, HB levels high enough? I am pregnant with my 3rd child. Anytime I am getting close to labor, I have low appetite. Why is this so, and how can I fix this so that I don't starve my baby? This is from Barbara in Pokwase.
So let me start with the last question. That question is a bit technical, the low appetite. You see, before pregnancy, you should have built up stores, and that's why the advice is to give a gap of at least 2 years between pregnancies. And in that 2 years, you build up stores, so that in the off chance that during the pregnancy period, you may not, because some women actually have increased appetite, most actually don't have an appetite, but at least you built enough stores in your system so that the baby still doesn't get deprived, even though you may not be eating every day. But as much as possible, try and eat something. I mean, think of it like medicine. Nobody likes taking, at least I don't like taking medicine, but I know it's for a good cause, so I'll take it. So at some point, you must look at food like it's medicine and just take it because you want to sustain the baby. Now, the lady who spoke about HB, your HB being low, it's a function of your iron stores. HB means hemoglobin. It means that anemia, yes. And anemia is very common in pregnancy. Again, because the pregnancy process itself causes a dilution of your blood, because the blood needs to thin out so that it can pass through the placenta and exchange with the baby. So there's some dilution. So if your HB is already on the borderline and there's that dilution effect, it causes your HB to drop. So as much as possible, it's still related to my first point. If you have built up your stores enough, it should cover for it. If not, report to the hospital. They'll give you some supplements, iron in particular. to help boost the HB.
Okay.
And then there was a third question.
Kwesi says, how important is medication during pregnancy?
Well, which medication are we talking about? There are some key medication that every pregnant woman should be on, and I touched on it when we had the session on antenatal. Even before you get pregnant, everyone should be on folic acid.
Okay.
You need to be on folic acid. Once you decide that I want to get pregnant, start taking folic acid. This is because folic acid helps with the development of the neural system, the brain and spinal cord. Very important. So you start taking folic acid. So, and all through your pregnancy, you'll be on folic acid as well. Multivitamin, very important, because like I said, the baby is feeding off of you, so you need multivites. Then you have your iron as well. Almost every pregnant woman, it's rare for a pregnant woman not to be given iron. So once you are pregnant, you will be given iron because you want to beef up your stock so that your baby can get something off of you. So those three are critical. All other medication will depend on what situation we are managing. So if you're hypertensive, we may be giving some type of hypertension medication, because not all of them are conducive for the baby. Okay. So they will give you some particular ones. Same with diabetes and other conditions as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelvin Owusu, for being
with us. Thank you very much for having me.
Where do we follow you on social media?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Kelvin Owusu MD and Facebook as well, Kelvin Owusu MD.
Thank you, Kelvin Owusu MD, for being
Thank you very much.
Hi there. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on City TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.